Hi everybody, welcome to your first Photoshop lesson. What we're going to do today is I'm going to show you how to remove something from its background. So we're going to take this yellow flower and we're going to get rid of all of the leaves and foliage around it. We're going to cut it out. There are many ways to do the same thing in Photoshop, but I'm going to start with the easiest ones. So on your toolbar, well, as you look at your screen, you should see your toolbar over here. Sometimes it's long and skinny like this. If it is, I would encourage you to click on this double arrow to double it up because I think it'll be easier to find, and I will refer to things in the left and right columns and it'll make it simpler. All right, over here on the right side, you'll see different panels that are open. And I need to see the layers panel because this is going to be very important to us later on. So if you don't see this, at the very top, you'll see something that says window, and you can get layers out. So make sure we see your layers and your toolbar. All right. Well, with Photoshop, in order to make any kind of change to an image, what we have to do is select the part that we're working with. And the easiest way to do that is on your toolbar, there's a button called the Quick Selection tool. And as we click on it, you'll see it comes with a circle with a little plus in it. There's plus or minus up in here, so if it's looking like a minus, well then click on the plus button, just so what that means, it's going to add to our selection. So as I click on my flower, I get this little animation, and we call that the marching ants. It just means this little part's been selected. Now generally what I do is I like to have this circle about the size of the image that I'm trying to select. So on the keyboard, if you look next to the letter P, like Paul, you'll see square bracket keys. The right bracket key makes your circle bigger, and the left bracket key makes it smaller. So I'm going to make it about the size of the petal, a little bit smaller, and I'm just going to click. And you can see that it's selecting all of that area. And with the plus, that just means it's going to add to it. So if I click on the next part, it adds to that. And if I click down here, Photoshop's pretty good at reading that this yellow is pretty continuous color, and it's selecting all of that color. I like to use this image because there's a lot of contrast between the yellow and the darker green of the leaves. All right, so we've got it selected. Let's say you were in a hurry or your circle was kind of overlapping. If you click out here, if your circle's outside of the area, well, it's just going to keep picking up more of the things outside. So right now I've got some leaves and I'm thinking to myself, I don't want that. So if you hold the Alt key or the Option key that's down on your keyboard kind of next to the space bar, Alt, Option, if you hold on that and you click, it will take that away. That plus becomes a minus. I would make my brush size a little bit smaller and hold the Alt key and then just kind of sweep in here to clean up some of the areas if I've made a mistake or I've gone outside of the lines. Now here you can see I've gotten a little sloppy. So if you're struggling a little bit to see where am I exactly with these lines, I can't tell, down on the very bottom of your keyboard you'll see something that says Quick Mask. Or if you hit the Q button, what you'll see is your mask. You're going to see your selection with some red around it. So you can see, well, okay, everything that's in my selection right now is yellow. All right, but sometimes I need to take this stuff out. Now when you're in Quick Mask, you need to use a paintbrush. So think about painting in red. Now I'm also going to switch these colors around because when the black one is up, well then I can add more red. If I switch these either with this little arrow or with the X key takes this out. When the white one's up, I can paint something out. So it makes it kind of easy to get in here and be a little more precise with your selections just by being able to paint something in or out. So if I make a mistake, I just hit X and I can paint this part out. I want to get really precise because I want to make sure I don't have any of that little green stuff showing, and I can just switch back and forth and get in there as tight as I need to. And if you want to check your lines, well then just hit Q so we can see where we're at. Yeah, it's a little bit off there, but I can, oops, just hit X and get in there and clean things up a little bit. All right, if you're satisfied and you're thinking, hey, I think this looks pretty good, well, there we are. We've got our marching ants It's around the part we want. Now we want to cut it out. Now if I just hit the delete key on my keyboard, well, it's going to ask me, what do you want to fill it with? We don't want to fill it with anything, so cancel that. So if you see fill, you know you've missed a step. And the step that we need to do is unlock our background. So over on your layers panel, you'll see a little padlock. Just double click on it and say OK. Now, if I hit my delete key, well, it just deleted my flower, which is exactly what I told Photoshop to do. I selected the flower and then I hit delete. But that's not what I wanted to do. So I'm going to hit Command Z, like zebra. I'm going to back that out. And instead, up on my toolbar, at the very top, you'll see Select. And I'm going to select Inverse. And what that does is it puts the marching ants around the edge of my picture. So that means I'm going to select everything except my flower. Now when I hit delete, there it is. It's gone. Now, if you don't like to see the marching ants and you want to get rid of them, Command D, like dog, will deselect the ants. And this is the other fun tool that I like. This is the Move tool. If I want to move something, I just grab it and I moved it. And since now it's free from its background, I can move this wherever I want. I could shrink it and put it in another photo. I could drag it into something else. It makes it really, really fun. Cutouts are great. All right. So now we've got that. We've got the quick selection tool and we were using quick mask mode so we could kind of see where we're at. In Photoshop CC, when you're working in the selection tool, you'll also see up here on the toolbar, select and mask. That will also give you a lot of masking options. We'll do that in another tutorial because I just don't have that version of Photoshop on my computer right now. All right, I'm going to show you one more way to do a cutout, just because sometimes you have maybe a person with a white shirt against a white wall and you don't have as much contrast and you need a different way to cut something out. All right, in Photoshop, the best way to start over is look for your history panel. It either looks like this little arrow, like this guy here, or if you don't see it, go to Window, to History, and get it out. I'm going to roll this little bar up. What this is showing me is every step that I took in my process. So if I backed it out, it'll show me all of my steps that I made. But I'm just going to start over so that I'm going to start from the beginning. All right. Another way you can cut something out is using a lasso tool. Now, if a regular lasso just means, I can grab this area, but that's not very precise. So instead, if you hold the mouse down on that tool, you'll see the magnetic lasso. And what this does is it allows you to trace something, but it's trailing along a little piece of string. This can make a mess pretty quickly, so you have to kind of go slow with it. If you do get outside the lines like I've done, just hit delete and it'll take you back to the last point. Now I'm clicking on the mouse to create these little points, but Photoshop will do it for you too, but especially on a curved edge. I'm just going to kind of click around so it knows where to put the string. And all I'm doing is tracing the edge, and I'm going to go around my flower and oops, and if I make a mistake, just hit delete, back it up, and just keep going around the edge. This tool takes a little bit of practice, but it's one that a lot of my students like when they're trying to cut out something that's a little bit tricky. All right, I'm just going to try to do this quickly so you can see. All right, as you get from the end and you're coming around to where you were at the beginning, what we need to do is connect. So we try to click on that first dot. If it doesn't work, just hit Enter, hit the return key, and it'll connect it for you. So now we've got the marching ants going around our flower, and it's just like what we did before. You unlock the background, say OK, select, inverse, and then hit delete. And you've got your flower cut out. Now if we go back a step and we're over here, let's just go back up so we haven't done the inverse yet. If you wanted to see your lines, we could do the same thing that we did before with Q. It still works. And if I needed to brush in or out, I just grab my paintbrush and I can brush in or out, just like I did before. So all of those tools work. It's just a different way to get that selection. All right. Well, I think you are ready to try a few on your own. So I want you to grab a couple of items and let's see if you can use your quick selection tool and the magnetic lasso tool. All right, good luck.